Hi everyone, welcome back to Ken's Vlog channel. I got 90s tagged by dankss. He tagged me along with 4 other people, so I have to answer what my favorite TV show is of the 90s, favorite movie of the 90s, favorite cartoon of the 90s, favorite toy of the 90s, and favorite video game of the 90s. So here we go. My favorite TV show, this is actually very hard because they actually made quality TV shows in the 90s, unlike today where it's all reality bullcrap that nobody cares about. I honestly watched like one show on cable TV, excuse me, Lost and The Office now, but back in the 90s they had some great shows. I just wrote some down here that I remember. The Commish, remember that? Dharma and Greg. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that show was awesome. That's Herman's Head, King of Queens. That was more in the 2000s, but I think it had a couple years in the 90s. Mad About You, Paul Reiser, he is funny. If you've never seen Mad About You, go rent the series. It's awesome. News Radio, also another awesome show. A lot of people know about. Had Phil Hartman in it for a long time till he died. Till his wife killed him. Parker Lewis's Day Off, or Parker Lewis Can't Win. I don't remember what the name of the show was, but it was really goofy and good. Married with Children. That is actually my favorite 90s TV show. Married with Children. That was awesome. And a close second would be In Living Color. It was a comedy, kind of a sketch show. Had Jim Carrey in it. All the Wayans brothers. If you guys have never seen that show, it is awesome. There's so many good characters come out of there. Fire Marshal Bill, Jim Carrey's Fire Marshal Bill. You guys got to check that out. YouTube it. It's hilarious. Let me show you something. And then Star Trek: The Next Generation. That was, that's better than any other Star Trek they've made since. The Next Generation was the best one. Okay, I'm rambling. I always ramble. My favorite cartoon of the 90s. I have 4 written down here. I got Simpsons, it's classic, Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy, and Dexter's Laboratory. I'm going to have to say that The Simpsons are my favorite 90s cartoon, just because, they made you laugh week in, week out. Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy were just retarded, but they were funny. And Dexter's Laboratory was a cartoon I watched with my son when he was really young, 3 and 4 years old. My favorite toy in the 90s, didn't really play with a lot of toys in the 90s, but the only one I can really think of is Bop It. That game, Bop It, pull it, squeeze it, or whatever it was. That was a pretty cool game. I actually beat that game. I got its maximum score one time. It was awesome. 200. 200?
Yes, 200.
My favorite movies of the 90s. My favorite movie of all time is Tommy Boy. It's classic. You can watch it over and over and over again, just like Super Troopers. That's another classic movie, but that wasn't in the 90s. And then another movie from the 90s is Forrest Gump. Probably one of the best stories ever told on picture. And I think it did come from a book as well. Even though it's all fiction, it's still a great story, of just how somebody can continue on after so much has happened. But that was an awesome story. And then my favorite video game from the 90s. I think this is probably a lot of people's, just because it was so revolutionary at the time and it was so much fun. The gameplay was very easy to get into. The storyline was just awesome. Final Fantasy VII. It was the best game of the 90s, hands down. I mean, other people could say, well, what about Metal Gear? No, Final Fantasy VII was the best game they made in the 90s. That's all there is to it. A couple other games I enjoyed playing in the 90s was Oddworld, Abe's Exodus, and 007 GoldenEye. That was a cool game. And I wish in the 90s I had an N64 because, or more of an N64, because I would have liked to have played Conker's Bad Fur Day. That probably would have made this list too if I had played it in the 90s. I don't know who to tag on this video. I've seen so many of you do this 90s tag. It's hard for me to keep track who's done it and who hasn't. So if you want to do a 90s tag video, go ahead and respond to this one. I'm supposed to tag 5 people, but like I said, you've all done so many of these 90s tags, it's just kind of repetitive. But I've never done one, so I wanted to do it. And thanks for tagging me. Talk to you guys later.